This is 149,000 miles, this F-150. It's got the Coyote 5-liter engine. Is it a good engine? Is it a good truck? I'm going to go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb and show you the truth about these things. The guy just bought it. He knew he was have to get a high mileage car because he only had a certain amount of money. For $12,500, you can see it's in excellent shape. It's got the back seats in it, and it's a traditional rear-wheel drive truck. It's not four-wheel drive. And it also happens to be a flex fuel too, meaning you can run it on gasoline that's got 10% ethanol. You can even run it on E85. It's 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline. Now, for my money, the ethanol is a complete waste because I just looked the other day, it was only 30 cents a gallon cheaper than the regular gasoline. And this truck, from my experience of customers, they will get between 25% to 20% worse gas mileage. And since you're not saving 25% buying it, it's a stupid thing to run it on ethanol because you get worse gas mileage. Now the farmers love it because they're selling corn and they're making money. In the Midwest, you find ethanol everywhere. When I lived in Texas, there were only a handful of ethanol stations in the whole state. Now, this thing's been run on gasoline. He runs it on gasoline. It makes the most sense to run it on gasoline. The big trucks, they're going to use a lot of gas anyways. Would you really want to get 20 to 25% worse gas mileage? No. Now, this F-150 has the 5-liter Coyote engine. It's naturally aspirated. It doesn't have GDI. It doesn't have turbochargers, and as such, these engines can last forever. In goes the key, and yes, it has a key. And as you see, it's got 149,000 miles on it. Now you can hear it's a relatively quiet engine. You can hear a little noise in the valves and the cam. That's totally normal. Now there's a big discussion out about these Coyote engines. Some people say they're garbage, they make noise, they fall apart. Well, it's not really the engine itself, especially in a 2013. From my experience, a lot of the ticking noises that people don't like in the Coyote 5-liter V8s comes in later years when they went to the gasoline direct injection. All that extra pressure, those injectors have a tendency of being noisy. This doesn't have this. This has regular fuel injectors that work at a much lower pressure. If you get a later one that has the GDI and it's making some noise, the first thing you do is get yourself a stethoscope, put it on the injector. You hear the noise come from there and it runs okay, you don't care. I've seen those things run hundreds of thousands of miles. They're still ticking away, but they're also still running perfectly fine. Okay, so this one, it just has regular old fuel injectors under here. You don't have to worry about it. Now, being that it's old school, not having GDI, not having turbochargers on it, he drove from Indianapolis to Clarksville, Tennessee here, and he got 17 miles a gallon on the highway. That's what you'd expect to get with a big truck like this, with a big V8 engine, when you're cruising at the speed limit. Now, the newer ones can get quite a bit better gas mileage, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Because this 2013, here's the gear shift lever, it is a 6-speed automatic. This is before they went insane and put in that 10-speed automatic. Now the 10-speed can get much better gas mileage because it has 3 overdrive gears, not 1. It has 3 of them. But that also sacrifices the reliability. The 10-speeds have had various problems, especially the earlier ones. They can get phenomenal gas mileage, but they go between gears. People don't like them. They feel kind of weird. This 6-speed is much more bulletproof. Yes, it doesn't get this good gas mileage, but if it can last forever, that's where my money's at. Because for a few miles per gallon better gas mileage, when that 10-speed training goes on, the many thousands you will spend fixing it will more than negate getting a little bit better gas mileage. Sometimes old technology is better if you want to last for a long time. Did he buy a 4-wheel drive? No. These are just regular wheels. This is a conventional V8, automatic transmission, and rear-wheel drive that generally can last a really, really long time. Believe me, you don't want to buy something you don't need. That raises the cost of the vehicle, makes it harder to fix, more expensive to fix, and it also drops your gas mileage. You go to a 4-wheel drive vehicle from a 2-wheel drive, you're going to get worse gas mileage, more friction, more driving force, and even worse gas mileage. If you don't need it, don't waste your money on it. You can see it's well made. It's got all the coolers stuck in the front here so it doesn't have overheating problems if you're pulling or towing. And going back to the 6-speed transmission, you tow with these things and pull, it doesn't really bother them much. You start doing that with the 10-speed, you get weird gear shifts. It doesn't feel right, especially going uphill, downhill, and they have had some problems with them. You are better off with a more basic one like these older 6-speeds. The fight to get better and better gas mileage has created more and more complex vehicles that break down more often. You're better with an older one like this that's simple. So let's see if you really got a deal by hooking up my computer. Easy to hook it up. Go to the Ford USA, it's 2013, and we'll do an automatic scan. You can see it's going to go through all these systems. So far, only one bad one. A lot of times you find minor stuff wrong, so we're going to go through the whole system with this and then see what's red. The only thing red is here. Power steering control module. Says the voltage of the battery is off. No big deal. Realize this thing sat for a while at a car lot before he bought the thing. So I'm going to check the battery after we do all this analysis. Could be it was a weak battery. It might have been recharged and it's fine now. We'll check that. But that, you don't worry about those codes really. We're going to look at the pure data. Start it up. We'll go to the computer system and we will look at live data. See, we're not screwing around here. There's 373 bits of live data. We'll start going through it all. These are color coded, so if there's a weird color, and we'll analyze some of the data personally. Now we know the alternator's working because it's running and it's 13.789 volts, so it's charging fine. The alternator's working. We'll check the battery when we're done. No fault in any of the camshaft sensors. Long way to go. We're on 91 and there's 373 bits of data. Good thing my brain still works. And this is the problem with these flex fuel vehicles. They have a tremendous amount of data. And in order to check them out, you need a guy like me with a fancy machine like this to do it. You really have to know what the data is and what it means. Pump has no faults. You can see the short-term airflow is 0.00. Look at that, it's running perfectly. It's not trimming it at all. There, 0.01 or 0.09. Every once in a while, a little trim, but it's hardly nothing for a vehicle with this mileage. Injectors all 8. They all say no fault. This shows you the long-term fuel trim of each cylinder. Bank 2, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's subtracting a little, it's running a little bit rich on number 4, perfect on 3 and 2, and it's running a little bit lean on cell 1. It does have 149,000 miles. I can feel a little jiggle in the steering wheel. I can feel a little bit of just a jiggle. Car with this mileage, there's no way the fuel injectors are perfect. What I would advise with having them professionally cleaned with a fuel injection cleaning machine, and it would probably make them run a little bit better. Now it's only a tiny bit off. See, in the olden days, the machine would show the fuel trim for one bank or the other, but all 4 in a row. This does individual ones. That's how complex the software is on these. That you can see the individual ones, and you can see on this that 2 and 3 are perfect, but 1 and 4 are a little bit off. One's running a little rich, one running a little bit lean. And the only thing that really is going to do that is the fuel injectors being dirty or just being worn and need replacing at some point in time. But since it's getting its regular 17 miles a gallon on the highway, I personally would leave it alone. Airflow sensor's working fine, no fault. We're on 266, so we still got over 100 more data points to go. These things are color coordinated because they're all black, so I know they're within specs. And then if I have a question about any particular one, I can just look at the actual one, and if I want, I can even graph them. As you can see, I'm now graphing the rear oxygen fuel trim. We're getting into the transmission data. Nothing's odd there. So all in all, it's in pretty good shape. Let's take it for a spin. So far, it's shifting good. I got no complaints about the transmission whatsoever. We'll wait till cars get out of the way. Here comes another one the other way, so we'll wait some more. All right, here we go. The pickup truck's going where it belongs, out in the cornfields. Now it's a conventional V8, so it's got a lot of torque to it. Makes a decent sound. High up in the air. I don't hear any bearing noises. I don't hear anything odd. And now we get to the little drag strip. Come to a stop because there's nobody behind us. And we'll see what it can do. Here we go. It is a V8 engine that has a reasonable amount of power. I must say, the traction control isn't working too good. Because the wheels are spinning, but I like it better that way anyways. And you can see, when we floored, downshifts, let go, it goes up, does it clunk? No. I like these 6-speed transmissions. If this was a 10-speed, to me, they feel weird, and they do have problems as they age. These 6 speeds, this has got 149. It really doesn't operate any different than a brand new one does. So, if you're really looking for a good truck, if you can find one of these with a 6-speed and a normal V8, it doesn't really matter that it's flex fuel. Just use regular gas and pretend it isn't flex fuel. Unless you're a farmer living in the Midwest and you want to sell that corn, go ahead and put it in, but you're wasting your money because you're going to get worse gas mileage and you're never going to recoup the small price differential as it stands today. Maybe one day gasoline will be $10 a gallon and ethanol will be $4, and then it'd be worth buying, but not today. And really, for a pickup truck, they redesigned these things a long time ago. When you're taking corners, it says you're supposed to take this at 20. We're going 50, and it's not straining at all. They do ride a lot better than they used to. Pretty smooth ride for a rear-wheel drive pickup truck, actually, with 149,000 miles. Road test was fine, but we're going to check the battery now because it had that one stupid code, low voltage. Could just be the battery was weak because it sat a while, or it could be that the battery's going bad, so we'll test it. I got the little battery tester hooked up. Direct to the battery health test, looking for floating electricity. There isn't any. We'll go by cold cranking. This is 850. I know it's 850. That's close enough. Because it says 850 right here. So here we go. Testing the battery. Here we go, 100%. 82% of its life is left. Battery's normal. Do I see? Hey, it's pretty shiny. It's a relatively new battery. So the code was probably from the previous battery. This is what a lot of people don't understand. If you replace a battery in a car, especially a fancy one like this, that's a flex fuel, you want to erase all the codes with a fancy machine like mine. Otherwise you'll have old codes that stay forever. So there we have it, an excellent used F-150 for a good price, showing that the Coyote 5-liter engines can be great engines, and that these 6-speed automatic transmissions can hold up quite well. I'm still questioning the 10-speed automatics on the later model ones, but on this 2013, no, the 6-speed tranny still shifts like a dream. Okay, old pickup trucks. This is a 99. Are they worth buying, or are you buying somebody else's problem? Lady just bought this for $3,500. We're gonna go through it, see if she got a deal or not. Now, cosmetically, of course, it's seen better days. Paint's fading, but the chrome's still good. The wheels are in decent shape. And one of the crucial things on these is you don't want that's rotted away. It's one of the Southern cars, you can see. It's just superficial scratches. It's not rotted. A lot of times these tailgates are rotted away. Hey, now you'll notice one thing when I close it rattles because it needs a new hinge. No big deal. She doesn't care. It holds it in place. She's not going to fix it. But that's a minor flaw. Now the major things to check on these babies is the frame. Full frame, solid. Now, yep, the rocker panels are gone. Well, you can cut the metal off, weld new ones if you want. Door solid. It's just the rocker panels. The bottom is quarter panel. We'll check the other side too. And as we go down here, we see this rocker panel's been eaten away. You can replace rocker panels. They just weld on. Now you can see there's plenty of good metal left to weld more stuff on. It's not all rotten through. And in this case, panel here is okay. So it needs rocker panels. Big deal. As you see, nice solid frame. Now let's say the frame was rotten. Don't buy it. Get one with a solid frame first. You crawl under, the frame's gone, walk away. Go to the next one. This is a classic GM pickup. It's just rear wheel drive. You can see what they're known for. Big old V8 engine. It has a 4.8 liter V8 engine. It looks to be in good shape superficially. Now the guy put a cold air intake. I'm not a big fan of that, but let's see what it sounds like. Well, we'll start her up. Starts right up. Crank windows. Yes, crank windows. It's got an excellent sound. The exhaust has been modified too. But the engine, running pretty smooth. Isn't shaking. And when we rev it up, we'll look out the back. No smoke. Okay, this baby's got 250,000 miles on it. But heck, the AC still blows cold. Yeah, it makes noise because the blower motor's wearing out, but it's still blowing cold. Now, would I buy a modern GM 1500 Silverado? No way. But this baby we made in the great state of Indiana. Go Hoosiers. Fort Wayne. Midwesterners built these trucks and they built them well. 250,000 miles. This thing is still running quite well. Now, we're going to check out the transmission. And I know it's got to be worn. As far as I can tell, it's still the original one. That's the thing that goes out first on these. And 250,000 miles, don't be surprised if you have one of these. Eventually, you'll have to either rebuild it or put a rebuilt unit in. But they're relatively simple transmissions, which can be either rebuilt or my favorite is buy a fully remanufactured one that was done by pros who know what they're doing. Maybe you want the best gas mileage, they'll set it up that way. Maybe you want one that tows the most, they can set it up that way. This one still goes, but I'm sure when we drive it, we'll feel a little funkiness in the transmission. They're almost all that way with this kind of mileage. It's not leaking anything under, top's pretty clean. Doesn't overheat idling. So let's get the old computer out. Okay, we'll plug it in the data port. It's a 99. It'll be kind of slow, but still is OBD2. We'll plug it in, see what happens. We'll turn the key on. So the idiot lights are on, but it's not running. It's going to have a limited amount of data, but it gives us enough to see what kind of shape it's generally in. Old ones, they got to go through the different protocols until they find the right one. And here we have, okay. And we will read fault codes. And we're talking GM. And here we go, evap vent circuit is open. The malfunction lamp control circuit. Those are minor codes, especially here in Tennessee. You notice there's no sticker on the windshield. They don't inspect cars. Now, if you live in a state where they inspect cars, you're gonna have to fix that stupid thing to get it legally inspected, which is a pain in the butt. Always consider that if you live in an area. But also check the dates and areas, because if this car was in Rhode Island, it would be grandfathered. It's too old and it doesn't need emissions testing anymore. So always look into that kind of stuff in your area. If you can get an older vehicle and you don't have to get it inspected, that's one advantage of buying an older vehicle. You don't have to deal with all that crap. Back, what I really want to see is reading the live data. Select everything and we'll look at the data. The airflow, mass airflow sensor. The airflow rate is pretty good. 5.6, 5.7, 67. It's a big engine. That's close to the liter of the engine at idle and drive, which is what you want. Now the engine coolant, you notice, is in the red, and that's because it's too cold. See how low it is here? Well, I can just about guarantee you what's happening there. It's 90-something degrees already, and it's running at cold. Somebody took the thermostat out. Now, you can run them that way. They'll run perfectly fine, except if you do it in a modern car, it'll put the check engine light on, then you can't get your car inspected. But here in Tennessee, when it gets hot, a lot of guys will take the thermostat out. And then in the winter, when they want heat inside to warm themselves up, they'll put the thermostat back in. If this was mine, I would just put a new thermostat in and see how it runs. And if it ran fine, I'd just leave it in the whole time. But you would much rather have a vehicle that's running cool like this instead of one that's running way over here by 260, meaning it's overheating. It's an old vehicle. The long-term fuel trim, bank 1 is adding 2.3 and bank 2 is subtracting 1.5. 2 banks, right? I can feel a slight little jitter, so it's not running perfect. It's adding a little fuel on bank 1 short term and subtracting a little on bank 2. With this kind of mileage system that this vehicle has on it, that's typical. You could put in new fuel injectors. Well, you might want to clean them. Runs good enough, but you might want to clean them, try to get a little more perfect. But those are good readings. It's a small amount. Anything that's 2% or less is good for a vehicle with 250,000 miles on it. That's the long-term fuel trim. Isn't that bad. Now it went up to 2.344. And the other one's still subtracting a little bit. Yeah, it's off. And now they're both exactly similar. One is adding and one is subtracting. So basically an engine that's running as smooth as this, I'd put a little cleaner in the tank and leave it at that. It's not burning oil, runs as smooth. This engine's still got a lot of life in it. For a spin. And I can roll up the windows because the AC is working. And with the windows rolled up, we'll be able to hear all the noises better than with them rolled down. Here we go. No backup camera. As an aftermarket Pioneer stereo. Gotta love this old AC that's working. GM always did make pretty good AC systems. Even when I was a kid, they're putting out some pretty cold vehicles. Now it's a pickup truck. It's high up in the air. And we're listening for odd noises. So far, the bearings are pretty quiet. I don't hear any big roaring noises. I don't hear the rear differential howling. And it is a big old pickup truck with 250,000 miles, but the front end isn't all that bad. Still handles pretty good. It's not particularly wavering in the corners. But I always worry about these on the automatic transmission, so we're going to take it out for a spin and see how it shifts under load. It's not doing too bad at low speed. It downshifts without any clunks. Now we'll check the brakes out. They still work pretty good. The ABS is activating. It's not squealing the tires. Even this old 99 has ABS brakes. Mind you, it's an older system. I sure wouldn't bet my life on it, I'll tell you that. So let's take it to my newly paved drag strip. Look at those lines. Smooth. All right, there's nobody behind us. So, on your mark, get set, go. Go, burn the rubber. Really doesn't shift that bad under load. It's a little rough, but hardly at all. And we'll see how passing gear works, all right? It goes down, picks up, and goes faster. As far as I can tell, she's really getting her $3,500 worth out of this old pickup truck. Front end stable, look, man, no hands. It's always gonna drift a little to the right. That's how this road drains, and they just repaved. It's just pretty smooth. You don't feel any jerking. It's going in all the gears. No howling noises. Now, if I only had $3,500 to spend, I'd definitely buy this pickup truck. Of course, we already got 2 Toyotas sitting in a driveway. They'll probably last another 30 years, so I'm not looking for one, but she found this. And interestingly enough, her other vehicle is a Tesla electric car, so kind of ironic there. Well, even the interior's in pretty good shape in this thing. Seems to me it's been redone. They did a pretty good job too. It's comfy and it looks good. Only thing I can really find wrong is this. One of the turn signal bulbs is burnt out. So all in all, don't let the superficial rocker panel right now scare you away from one of these. The rest of it's still rock solid. Sure, the paint's faded away, but the metal underneath is still in pretty good shape. And realize one more thing. These aren't like the new crap they're throwing out. They're simpler. They were solid built. If you got to replace the transmission, not that bad. The engine, you can modify it, do whatever you want. Put aftermarket parts on if you want. There's tons of cheap ones here. Lots of them in junkyards you can get parts from if you smash up a fender. These things can run forever. Now, this is a Toyota Tacoma, so of course it's not going to really have any problems for quite some time. It's only got like 15,000 miles on it. It's a 4-cylinder one. It's got the little back with the tiny little baby seats for miniature people. Basically, it's for storing tools and stuff. It's the same as my son's old truck, only it's got all kinds of tools in it and garbage in the back. We open the hood. One of the most dependable engines Toyota ever made. Now, it does have intelligent variable valve timing, but being a 2020, it doesn't yet have all that insane dynamic force technology that Toyota's put in their new engines. That, yes, the new ones do get better gas mileage, but it's at a level of technology that would blow your socks off. I would just put a bet on any of these that these older ones, it's 2020, but it's still somewhat of an older design, will outlast those modern ones by far. It's so much simpler. It has less pressure in the fuel injection system. It's just a more basic design vehicle that's been proven to the test of time. Check this out. We're talking old school. It's got a actual fan, a mechanical fan with a 4-banger. There's plenty of working room. Although really, that's kind of a moot point because Toyotas hardly ever break. Getting there and doing some heavy duty work may never happen if you change the oil every 5,000 miles with synthetic oil. It may never break down. Being the old school design, it's got a mechanical water pump. Another tried and true simple design. Let's put on our thinking caps. How well does hot coolant mixed with hot water go with electric water pumps? Yes, electricity and water aren't exactly things that go together that well, and eventually they will break and they will cost more money to fix. Sometimes technology gets a little bit too far advanced for somebody who wants something that's going to run forever and not have hardly any problems at all, and anybody can fix it. You can fix this with normal hand tools. You start getting to electronics, you need a guy like me, some fancy scan tools, a big knowledge of electronics, freeze frame oscilloscopes. They've gotten to that level of technology. Well, this thing plugs on the top. It does have a plastic intake manifold, but they all do that these days. And now this is a 4-cylinder, 2.7-liter engine. It has a regular fuel injection system. The V6s come with the direct fuel injection system, which is a lot more pressure, and believe me, it will wear out faster. Now, I'm not talking wear out fast like a Ford EcoBoost system. They're not turbocharged. There's no way it's going to last as long as something that's only got 40, 55 pounds pressure versus over 1,000. It's only common sense. They will wear out faster. And that's one of the strange anomalies. If you get the V6 engine version and you drive slow, which nobody's going to do, but if you did drive slow, you'll actually get about a mile a gallon better gas mileage on a highway with the V6 versus this. The V6 has direct injection, a dynamic force engine. It's a very complex system with a lot more horsepower in the V6 engine and can tow more. But at what cost? These systems have been known to go 1,000,000 miles. The new ones, we'll find out, but I doubt they'll go 1,000,000 miles trouble-free with all that pressure in them. There's just too much technology. I've already seen some problems in some of the new Toyotas with that electric water pump system where they're having overheating problems because everything's electronic. And if you know anything about electronics, if it can break, it will. And since it's all software, sometimes it's software problems, sometimes it's hardware problems, but it's a lot simpler to have a pump that runs off a belt that goes hundreds of thousands of miles than one that's controlled by a computer that has an electric pump soaked in hot coolant in an engine all the time. It's only logical. And yeah, you go inside, they're relatively Spartan. It's a little pickup truck. It's a Toyota, so you know it's gonna start right up. And it has a 6-speed automatic, which you can either let shift itself, or if you want, you can shift up and down using the lever itself. And of course, they all have their backup cameras on it. It's a pretty basic one, but you see what you're getting. It's not a fancy one that'll show you all the different angles, but it works perfectly fine. And it has cloth seats. Looks like they have a dog. I see dog hair. Cloth seats will last forever if you take care of them. It's also a pickup truck, so no sunroof on this thing. Just a nice big back window you can look out of. Nice and high, great AC, where everything can be done off the steering wheel if you want. As you can see under here, there's no front wheel drive. This is a classic pickup truck with a big old differential in the back, and it's also set up electronically to have a limited slip differential so you don't get stuck anywhere. You can see a solid frame truck. This isn't like a Bronco Sport with a unibody. This is an actual frame. These things can go through a lot and still come up smelling roses. And what everybody in a pickup truck wants, a full-size spare, not some stupid little donut or no spare at all. You hang it down here so it doesn't take up space in the bed. And speaking of the bed, they put decent liners in these. Heck, my son's ancient one where the frame was rotting away in Boston, the liner still looks brand new. They did have frame problems in the past. Not anymore. They figured that out. They treat them so they don't rust anymore. Now he's got a little bit fancier wheels on it because he wanted to make it a little fancier. But really, you want to make it look fancier? You don't want to pay the Toyota dealer. They charge too much for that stuff. You can buy aftermarket stuff forever. It's been sold for so long. There's so much aftermarket. You want a fancier stereo? You can get Androids that blow these things away. 150 bucks. I mean, you don't pay the top dollar stuff for them. You want fancier wheels? Go out and buy them. Put them on yourself. You got all kinds of choice there. There's an aftermarket insanity for these things. But unlike the older Tacomas that tended to be a little staid and boring, these have a good style to them. So you really don't have to change the headlights and the grill. They look good the way they are. So let's take it for a spin. We're nice and high up in the air. The classic rear-wheel drive pickup truck. And for a truck, it's relatively quiet. I mean, it's a new truck, but it's not going bangity-bang over the bumps. And it handles good. It's not a race car. It's a little pickup truck. And it handles quite well for a little pickup truck. The brakes are perfectly fine. ABS, all that stuff, traction control. We'll take it out the country road here. Get to our little drag strip. We'll try something different. We'll put it in first gear and we'll take off. We'll shift it manually. And a lot more pickup that way because we'll come to a stop and now we'll do it in just regular drive. You'll see the difference. Here's regular drive. You notice it has a lot less acceleration. It shifts perfectly fine, but if you really want to get up and go, you can use the manual mode. It's not a race truck, but when you shift it yourself, you can have a little more fun. You can put it in second gear takeoff instead of first if it's slipping too much in first. Gives you a little more option. Heck, the main reason people buy these things is because they can last forever. They can haul all their crap. and they know it's going to start. They know the engine and transmission are going to last, and it's high enough up in the air that they can do some water wading if they have to. And I'm sure this truck feels a lot more at home in Nashville than it ever did in California. Little 4-cylinder engine, but no shake at idle, nice and smooth. Not sure if you compare it to other trucks can ride a lot smoother, have a lot more power, but really, there's nothing out there that's going to last as long as this thing will probably last. It's responsive enough for a little pickup truck. It's not clunky, you know, it's not a race car. You don't go taking corners at 90 miles an hour. Now, if you're a long haul person like me and you want something that's going to last forever, take it wherever you want to go. Mainly, you're driving on the road, you can't beat a 4-cylinder Toyota. Now, on the other hand, if you're thinking about pulling boats, you're worried about getting stuck, you might want 4-wheel drive, the V6 engine, the higher level of technology that probably won't last quite as long. Mind you, it's still a Toyota. But if you're a long-haul person, you really can't beat a 4-cylinder Toyota pickup. It's a classic small pickup. It'll do what you want. And then again, small is a relative term. This is a heck of a lot bigger than the old one that my son had. That was like a 99. These small trucks have grown over time. But if you want something like this, you can't beat a 4-cylinder Tacoma. You want something that could last for generations of people. The gold standard of small pickup trucks. And you can tell by the sales. These things outsell the Ranger so much it make your head spin. It's made in Texas, made in USA. It's not a Mexican one. I would always prefer the Texas Tacomas over the Mexican ones. That's just me. Has a little bit to do with quality and what workers are paid, but that's another story. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.